Alrighty, good evening everyone. My name is Hans Nelson. I'm the Assistant Director for English Programs with Xperitas, and I'm here in Delano, Minnesota with a very good friend of mine and Family Stay Coordinator, Mr. John Fitzer, who is a Spanish teacher here. And so, John, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? When did you start teaching? When did you start traveling with Xperitas? And then when did you start hosting students from abroad?
Okay, well, I started teaching in 1986, 1989 in Delano, where I'm at now. 1988 was my first opportunity to travel abroad with, at the time, ISE, now Xperitas, and then started the summer hosting program in 1992, was my first summer doing that.
Very cool. So I invited John today because I really would like to have his expertise to kind of share with some new teachers, those of you that are listening in, to kind of get an idea of what it takes to do this, what are the benefits and that kind of thing. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, this webinar thing's new for me, it's new for John. If you do have questions, there's a little tab on the right side. If you can kind of see, there's some menu items and there's a question box, and you can just type questions in there. We can't hear you, but hopefully you can hear us. But yeah, just type your questions in there, and then we will answer those at the end and kind of address some of those things. And then, yeah, maybe you won't have any questions, but we'll take questions from other listeners and pass those on to you. So let's get started here. So welcome. This is a session to talk about hosting an English program in your community and becoming a family stay coordinator and or a family finder, which we'll get to in a moment. So again, I'm Hans Nelson, Assistant Director of the English Programs here with John Fitzer, Spanish teacher from Delano High School. So today we will be tonight we'll quickly talk about in the next half an hour the Xperitas and English U.S. hosting program. Then we're also going to be talking about what are the benefits of hosting a program in your community, walk through the process, what happens from the start, what happens to the finish, how to recruit. That's where we'll get some insight from John, how he's been doing this for the last 25 years. And then we'll answer and go over some questions. The Xperitas hosting program has been around for quite a while. As John said, he's been doing this for 25 years, and I think that's around the time when Xperitas started inviting international students to the United States. A lot of what the program was sending American students abroad with French, German, and Spanish programs. And so then the hosting program came because the European clients and host families were saying, we want to send our kids abroad and send them to the United States to practice their English. And so our programs right now, we have teenagers that come from France, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, and Spain, and they stay in each community. It depends on which program it goes to the community, but between 1 to 5 weeks. But overall, hosting is an incredible opportunity to bring, to create that cultural exchange between your community and the students that are coming from abroad. What is a family stay coordinator? A family stay coordinator is basically a teacher or anyone in the community that's willing to find 10 to 15 host families to host these international students between 1 to 5 weeks, as I said. They can also be people that will organize activities and different things that the students will do in the community. We'll get to a little bit to talk about what are those different programs and what is your involvement. But basically that family stay coordinator is the person that welcomes the students at the airport. They find all the host families, meet with all the host families. Then they are on call or there with when the students arrive, and they're there to help answer questions to the host families. They work very closely with myself and my colleagues, and they basically are the on-the-ground, in the community person that's helping manage the program while the students are here. If that seems like too much for you during the summer, which we can get to, you can also just be a family finder, where all you do is just find families and you refer them to a family stay coordinator, or you just find families and send them directly to us through our system, and then we can help with just finding someone in the community that will be kind of that local coordinator. We really like to have someone in the community that's there to help. It's just so nice to have someone on the ground in case of any emergencies or if you need to go pick up students. It's great to have someone there rather than it being totally managed by us here in Minneapolis. Here's some examples of the different types of programs that we have. These are, as I said, the target countries that are going to be coming. We have Spain, Belgium, France, Switzerland, and Germany. Students coming from there. We have 4 different really kind of themed programs that we have. For the first one is our American Summer Program. The big aspects of this program are your family stay experience. That's the main aspect of all of our programs. We feel that's an important part of the procedure and everything that happens with our programs. But the big one with this is it involves cultural classes, the opportunity for the students to engage with this teacher or this person in the community to learn some new thing or just to interact in English. Sometimes it can happen in a classroom, like I believe, John, you do some classroom work, correct?
Yes, I do. I have,
you have
4 or
them
5
here?
classes that we work directly here.
And so they come here, you do a movie thing, we'll get to that in a little bit, but it can involve the school, or you're going on a sightseeing tour and there's a worksheet that has vocabulary to kind of highlight what it's talking about. Cultural adventures then are those little excursions, museum, bowling, going to a local rodeo, whatever it may be in your community. And then there's the cultural excursions. So for example, if I live in Naperville, Illinois, and I have a program hosted there, I would travel to Chicago and spend the day or 2 days overnight and live in a hotel with these students and maybe some of my local students as well. The American Venture Program does not involve the classes. It still has that aspect of doing some local sightseeing, and it includes an excursion to a nearby big city, also the family stay. Then you have your Sports Camp USA, which is usually a 4 to 5 week program, but it involves a shorter family stay program because then the kids go to camp. And that can be basketball, tennis, sailing, whatever sports camps maybe are in your area that you would like to promote. And then our last program, which is our Hometown USA program, which is the total immersion with the family stay only, no organized activities. A lot of our first year teachers do a Hometown USA program because it's a little easier. All they do is find the 15 families and then they're on call during that time when the students are here. So below there's the 2017 projected dates, the program dates. Late June to early August is usually when they come to the United States. Our French students are going to be coming around July 6th to July 27th. Our Spanish programs will be a range between June 25th to August 11th, and then 4 or 5 or 3 weeks in between that range that when they'll come, depending on where you live, what region, and when they're coming. Swiss and Belgian students will be coming to the United States July 2nd through the 22nd, and then our German students are also in a range between June 26th and July 5th. All right, enough of me talking. Let's kind of get to talking with John. You know, John, you started doing this 25 years ago. Why did you start hosting? What did you see were the major benefits of doing this type of program?
Well, the initial reason was it was a great summer job. Truth be told, I was looking for a summer job right after I started in Delano in 1989, 1990. This was a couple years in. I had a part-time job one summer, didn't care much for it, and was really looking for something somehow related that I could use my Spanish. I had traveled, actually I had done a trip in 1991, and the following year, in the spring, I had received some information from ISE, again then Xperitas, and basically offering me a job, an opportunity to do this. And so initially that was the reason why I got involved in this.
Cool. And then what else, what evolved then over time? So was it all, has it always been about the money? I can imagine after 25 years some things have kind of progressed and,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was basically a great summer job, but I started to discover over the years that my students coming back were excited about Spanish, wanting to travel, and a lot of times it was like, wow, I can't believe how similar what they do is to what we do. So they were starting to become more of a world citizen rather than a small town kid. Their views of the world were a lot different. And then, of course, they had that passion to learn Spanish. And I think that's something that, for me, was probably one of the greatest things to see, that this really strong desire to really want to learn Spanish.
Cool. And so over the years, have you seen a lot of students that that host and then want to travel, or do they travel and then they want to host?
Yeah, and that kind of goes both ways, Hans. It's kind of, sometimes it's they, for whatever reason, heard maybe one of their friends is hosted and they met one of the kids, so they host a summer, and then a lot of the kids will travel with Xperitas, but some of the kids actually go on their own, and they actually take a trip abroad, and they'll spend 3, 4, 5 weeks with their host family in Spain, and again, getting that perspective of worldview of things.
Do you have a lot of students, old students, alumni of the high school that come back and say, John, I'm still friends with Felipe in Madrid, and do you still kind of hear about those relationships that were established because of hosting your program? And
I've had kids even go as far as, like, one of my students hosted one year and they stayed in touch, and he actually, I think his host Spanish brother was in the United Arab Emirates, and he flew there and he was his best man in his wedding. So it got to that point. I have a lot of families. I have one boy that hosted, I think, 3 summers ago, and his student has come back a couple of times to stay with him, and this boy actually went there last summer and spent 3, 4, 5 weeks there. So it's a constant. A couple kids every year seem to be, I'll hear about past experiences and things. So it's really made a difference in their lives.
Cool. It's creating that exchange, and that's really what Xperitas is all about. It's creating that sense of global citizenship and that exchange between cultures. So that's very, very cool. There's some listed benefits here on the, I need to move this really quick. Listed benefits there. John, do you have a good time doing this program? Is it fun?
Well, honestly, Hans, believe it or not, I look forward to it every year.
Great.
By the end of the school year, I'm sure most teachers would agree, even though you love your students, you're ready for a little break from them. I've got about a month off, and then the kids come in from Spain, and it's still teaching, but it's a different experience. It's a different opportunity. I personally, as an educator, anything that's new, any modern expressions, any modern whatever's going on in Spain at the time, I hear about it. And it's really neat to know the popular music.
So it helps you build your curriculum in some ways.
It really does. Cool. It really does. And it's something that I share with my kids every year. I've even run in situations, I'm in the middle of class, and I have a grammar question, and I really honestly don't know. And I'll WhatsApp one of my students or former people that are here, and I'll get an answer back in about 10 minutes, and I'll get the exact whatever it is I need. And so it's really been a nice resource from that standpoint.
And then obviously it's a great way for community engagement. You have these families coming together. You have welcome parties and picnics that you do with the families. Probably some of these families might not know each other, and they're together having a picnic, and there's one thing they share, and that's having that international international student.
Definitely, yep. So it really does. It's a community building thing as well. I would totally agree with that.
The other big is, as he said, it's helped build and strengthen his language program, just with the exchange, having more kids joining to travel, to host, and it helps inspire the kids. It gets them excited about learning Spanish, which I think is really cool.
Well, a reflection, too, of that would have been in 2014, I had 36 kids, 11th and 12th graders, go with me to Spain, and we only have about 360 kids in our junior-senior class. So you're figuring that out, that's 10% of the junior-senior class went to Spain with me, and I really think it has a huge reflection on this particular program.
Awesome. And the other pieces is, if you travel with an Xperitas program abroad, whether that's France, Germany, Spain, Costa Rica, wherever we take our teachers in classrooms, your students for hosting can receive a discount off of that trip. And it's listed there. If they sign up to host, even if they don't know what student they're going to host, but if they sign up by January 1st, they will receive a $250 discount rebate. Discount meaning they'll get a discount off if it's off a future trip, or rebate if it's off of a trip that they already had. So John's students that traveled last year to Costa Rica, they hosted this summer, they can get a rebate check instead of a discount. The other piece with the discounts is they live for 3 years. So let's say that I host this summer, but I'm a freshman, and I'm not going to be able to travel till I'm a junior, senior. I can still receive that $250. It will live in your student's account until that 3-year period. And then, as we've said, as John, one of his first reasons for hosting was it was a great summer income. And so you get paid depending on the program that you do. Obviously, the more work, the more you're going to get paid. But typically it starts around 125 if all you're doing is just finding families for 3 weeks, for example, and you're kind of the local contact. It's $125 for every student that you place in a host family. And the reason why I have to say it like that is because let's say you find a student, but he has 2 host families. We won't be paying you for both of those host families because it's still that one student. And so that's something to just be aware of. And then the American Summer and American Venture programs also include an extra stipend, an extra payment for the work you do in organizing all the activities. It's going to take a little bit of time to, call the Segway tour and make reservations, or to do research on, John is going to go to the Black Hills of South Dakota this summer with his students. It's going to take a little bit of research to see where they're going to stay, what they're going to do, and so we'll pay him for doing that work and organizing those activities. And on top of that, we're going to give him a budget of a certain amount of money of what he can spend for those activities. So let's say we give him $150 for every student, and for that excursion, he has $150 per kid to plan activities. They're going to go to Mount Rushmore. They're going to do all of those fun activities in South Dakota. So we really want to support the teachers. We don't want to make this a financial burden on them. John we were talking earlier, at the end of the summer, he had to pay $500 extra for a rental car or for a van because of the activities. We paid him for that. We understand. We never want the teachers to have this be any kind of financial burden for them. We want to support them, and because John's done a great job. You do a great job, John, with his programs, and we want to continue having you come back and supporting us. So there's a little asterisk there. Some schools, some teachers say, it's not about the money. It's not, I don't want to get paid. It's actually against my school policy. We completely respect that. What I would encourage you to do is still receive the money because we want to thank you, but put it into a scholarship fund. I have 2 or 3 family stay coordinators that host, and we pay them, but they don't take any of that money. What they end up doing is creating a scholarship that then they give to a student who maybe can't afford to do a trip with Xperitas in their class to France, Spain, wherever. They utilize that money as a scholarship in a way to help their other students or maybe one student to travel. So those are kind of the highlighted benefits that we like to talk about, because a lot of people don't understand and don't really know what. They obviously think of 1 or 2 benefits, but we've got quite a few that make it well worth your while and your classroom's while. Now we're going to go into a little bit of the process of how this all works. So this is this fall. So starting around August, September, or October is when we're recruiting teachers and communities that are willing to host 10 to 15 students in their community. So we start deciding and working with teachers. So for example, I contact John and I say, John, you want to do the same program you did last year? Yep, okay, great. He's going to do an American Adventure program this year, and he's going to do the American Summer program this year. Great, here's the details, here's your budget, here's how much you're going to get paid per host family, et cetera, et cetera. This is when they arrive, this is when they depart, this is your responsibilities, expectations, and then we have him sign an agreement that basically says that this is what he's willing to do. If he breaks that agreement by not hosting all 15 students, there's no penalty, there's nothing against you. It's just our way of being on the same page that this is what you said you're going to do and this is what we're going to hold you accountable for. If you get to that point and you can't find all those families, we think of options and ways to be flexible and work with you. But it's just a way for the 2 of us to have an understanding of what needs to happen this summer. Then we'll start sending you, then after that happens, then recruitment starts in Europe. So their recruitment season typically starts October, November, December, and all the way till the students actually come. But the hot seasons for recruitment, October, September, November, and then we start receiving applications, or as some people have called them, dossiers, but our applications start coming in around January, February, and so we give those to the teachers. A lot of teachers use this, and John's going to touch on that in a little bit, to use that for their recruitment. It's a great way to say, hey, this is Lucy from France, and she's 16 years old. She loves to go swimming, and her family she has 3 little brothers, and all of those details about them. And then it's a great way for you then to start pairing the students, and the students saying, oh, this family is just like mine, or this student, international student is just like me. They look like they could be a best friend of mine. And then when they're interested, they go online and register into our system. We collect all the host family's data. We create a report for the host family. Then we create a report. Then we send the application to the teacher. They then look and go, this is who I want to be paired with. They send us those pairings and say, I want Lucy to be hosted with Susan. They're hosted now. They can then start communicating and having that exchange via social media, email, whatever. And that's what I really like about it, is when we get the pairings done early, then they can start building those relationships and getting past those ice, breaking the ice and getting to know the international student and their family. And then at that time, if you're doing activities, you start organizing what activities you're going to do for the summer. John has a great calendar that he has planned, what he knows he's going to do every day, every week with the kids. And then once all the host families are found, so let's say you find all 10 or 15 of your families, then we're going to send you your check for finding all those families as part of your stipend. Then the students arrive, and then you become the local contact and potential activity leader if it goes along with your activities. And then they're here for however long the program is, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. They're in your community, and then they leave. And then they fly back home, and then we do feedback, debrief, we talk about how it went, and then we start making plans for the next summer. So, John, can you kind of go in now a little bit how you do your recruitment? How does your process kind of work with the students? You mentioned a lot that you love to use those applications. Could you kind of share how it works?
You bet. Well, I typically start off with, when I first started doing this, the first year I did this, made presentations to my students, and I made presentation to all my classes. From my perspective, at least in the community that I live in, didn't oftentimes get a lot of response right away. That doesn't mean the kids aren't interested. It's just too far out. If I'm starting this in March, April, that kind of thing, it's kind of early for a lot of people. Sometimes they don't know. But out of the 12, and this usually, the process has been the first probably 6 students were usually placed rather quickly. Within the first month, I would have 6 of the kids placed. And then things I'd kind of run into a lull, and this is pretty normal. I think every year I'll go through a period for about 2-3 weeks, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? Nothing's happening. And then I start, what I've done actually the last couple of years, I've discovered that with the grading system we have, I can send out mass emails to all my classes, all my students, parents, and once word gets to parents, oftentimes parents and kids have already talked, but they're busy, and oftentimes they just haven't discussed it. So when I send this email, I'll start getting calls and emails back from parents, and at that point, usually the process finishes itself up rather quickly. If this past year, I had a few more kids than normal, and I ended up going down to the middle school. I actually had some younger kids. I had some 13 and 14-year-olds this year, which is kind of more age appropriate with 8th and 9th graders. And so I did the same process down there. I went down there, found a teacher that allowed me to make some presentations, and then not getting the response, maybe 1 or 2 people, sending out some mass emails to families, to parents. And once the parents know, oftentimes they're very interested. The kids are interested. They just never formally discussed it. So that seemed to be, for me at least, the last couple, 3 years, like a huge asset is sending out that mass email to the parents and getting them phone calls back or those emails back.
Yeah. One of the cool things about the applications is it includes a host family letter. So the student from abroad writes a letter and introduces themselves, and those are always fun to read. It's always a cool thing. I know some teachers like to read them out loud, and sometimes they utilize those letters as really, in the pictures, as really the big way to recruit, and then the contact information comes later, because the phone number and address of the family from abroad. So
one of the things too, Hans, is once I started getting the dossiers or the applications, I post them outside my wall and the kids. I know kids are interested, and it might not be a student I have in class right now, but they walk by there every day, and you can see them going over and reading the letters and things. And eventually they'll just say, my family's really interested in hosting Juan or Pedro or Maria, whoever it happens to be, and then the whole process begins. And that seems to be another thing to draw kids in. Just they're passing through the hallway, they see them there. Oh, this looks interesting. Mm-hmm. But you kind of mentioned too with the letters are always fun. We'll pick a letter out and we'll actually I'll use it as a grammar lesson. So we kind of, we're talking about whatever, and they write. As a Spanish teacher, you see them writing the way it's translated. So like they'll say, I have 15 years. And it's kind of one of those things that kids can now put two and two together. Oh, they're thinking like the way I'm learning when I'm saying this, I have to say I have 15 years rather than I am 15 years.
Yeah.
So you kind of see all those kind of grammar things to come out of that.
I've had a couple teachers say that they like to utilize the applications as a way to, in their classroom. And I think that's a cool way to utilize them. John also mentioned kind of towards the end of that, you're getting close to when we need to start finding all the families, and there's 4 or 5 that still need to be found. Some of the ways that we can work with you and what we suggest is it's okay to split a student between 2 families. So for example, maybe it's a 4-week program. The first 2 weeks they're with one family, and then the second 2 weeks they're with a different family. That's totally fine. It's great actually to get more families involved, because sometimes families aren't in town for the 4 weeks that the students are here. They're only here for the first 2 weeks or the last 2 weeks. The other thing that we also suggest, our ideal situation is that we have a family that hosts a student within 2 to 3 years of the age of the international student. So if they have kids in the home that are around that age, that's great. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and it's okay then if you have a couple families that are empty nesters, as we say, the type of families that don't have children anymore at home, but they have space and they would love that opportunity to host a teenager again. Or you have your young families, like John said, middle school. But we've also had some families that host kids that have elementary age students. And John, you were mentioning earlier kind of that splitting situation with, what ends up happening usually. Like if a family's hesitant, I think we can only host for 2 weeks. I don't know if I can do the full weeks. How do you manage that?
Basically, what I've discovered over the years is I've split kids in a sense. I put them with 2 different families. And what will happen after the first 2.5 weeks is the first family will come to me and say, hey, we're really attached to the kid and we just want to keep them for the whole time. And obviously I've got a second family I've already committed to, and I say, I'm sorry, this is what we're going to have to do. So what I've done now is when I find that second family, I basically let them know that, hey, this is the situation. If first family wants to keep them, I'm going to leave them with the first family. And then maybe next year we can set something up for you. But it is one of those things. Families get really attached. They think 4 or 5 weeks is a long time, but after a couple weeks, they're really just starting to get to know the kids. And it's difficult sometimes to say, oh, you're going to somebody else now. Well, why can't you just stay with us?
Yeah. And I've seen that happen a lot. And I would definitely agree with John. It's once they get, I think there's just a bit of nervousness and families are very hesitant of inviting someone in their home, but once they're there and they get to know the kid, it's quite incredible.
One thing I found too is I've typically and pretty much done this the majority of the time I've done this program, and I actually go spend an hour with the host family before we actually officially do the placement, and discovered that oftentimes students are excited, mom and dad are a little hesitant, or vice versa, and once you sit down and just explain to them what the program is and how it works, families are just they jump right on board. It's like, well, I thought we were going to have to do this. I thought we were going to have to do that. No, this is really all you need to do. And I tell families you're here, their kids are here to learn English. They're here to learn our culture. And really, whatever you do that's normal, just don't change your lifestyle. We want you to be normal family, whatever normal means in this day and age.
Yeah, exactly. The other ways of recruitment, we have some helpful tools. This is a neat little flyer. It's a postcard shape. And on the back, it's got some general information. We've had some teachers that write in the dates and their information, and then they give this at a parent meeting, parent conferences. We also have a letter. We have a letter format that says, "Dear parents, excited about hosting a student this summer. Here's the expectations." And then it's got a frequently asked question section in the letter to kind of help with them understand the program more. We have a website that has lots of information and resources for host families, and also a place for them to gain more insight into the experience. And then, John is also offered, if you have questions or you're needing help, or, you want to know what works, what doesn't work, he'd be available, and I'll get you his information. We'll send that out. But you can contact John and get some insight from him.
Yeah, so. Definitely. To me, it's one of those things that I don't understand why more teachers aren't involved in this, because just from the first couple of years is always the challenging part. And I know that's kind of might seem overwhelming if you're just starting this, but you've got a lot of support. Xperitas has been very helpful with, even for me, even after all these years, sometimes I run into questions and have problems, but they're very supportive on this, and they want you to be successful. They see the benefits of it. I definitely see the benefits of it. I think you would too if you tried it.
Great. Thank you, John. We talked a little bit about this already, how to recruit. Whenever you're in your meetings to talk about your trips abroad, I know some of you are already planning for a trip this summer or even next summer. It's a great opportunity to have all the parents there to talk about this whole idea of the exchange. We're going to send our students abroad, but we're also going to invite some international students here because you really want your class, the community, to have that exchange program. The other great thing also, a wonderful thing to promote about hosting is, if some kids can't afford to travel with your program abroad, it's a great alternative to have them host, to give them that experience. The other selling point, have the parents get involved. I mean, the parents don't really get the opportunity to travel with their kid abroad, but give them that opportunity to host an international student. It's kind of like bringing the world into your home. And so, great opportunity to talk about that in your travel abroad meetings.
But one of the things too, Hans, that oftentimes one of the things when the kids are traveling, Xperitas, one of the parts of every travel abroad is they have a family stay.
Yeah.
And what's nice is a lot of the kids will host a student one summer and then travel the next year and stay with that student. And you guys have been real good about helping me set that up.
Yep.
Similarly, the kids will travel first, and then that student might travel with Interway in Spain and actually come and stay with the kids. So it kind of opens up that door.
I've also heard where, like, maybe you're going to travel to Madrid and a student's host, like an American student who traveled to Madrid with your class, hosted a kid from Valencia. Well, I've heard, Xperitas has been flexible enough to where during that family stay program, that student would travel to Valencia and stay with their host family.
That's what we've done.
And I think, it's a great opportunity. As I said, there's the Xperitas materials, the flyer, that would be great. Utilizing your school network. You don't have to utilize families that have kids in your Spanish class or your French class or your German class. It can be anyone in your school that's excited about the opportunity. Promote the discounts. $250 off of a trip abroad is a pretty good discount. So promoting that. And then, like John does so well, sharing your passion, showing the value of this to the family, to the student here in the United States. It's just a good idea that's to me where really if you really have the passion and you really understand how this works, the students and families will follow. Mm-hmm. We've reached that time now. We didn't want to take too much time this evening of your evening. I know as many teachers, you guys are busy and had a long day of teaching. So we thought it was just a great opportunity to share more information about the Family Stay Coordinator position, our hosting program here in the United States with Xperitas. And so now we'd like to open up with some questions. I've seen some have come in here on the bottom. And so I see here we have, how much money can someone typically make in a summer if they went all in and they, okay, so basically how much money would you make at the end of the summer if you did all of the programs? It looks like this one's asking, and this one comes from San Diego. If you went all in and did organizing activities, you did an excursion, you look for the host families, and you did it for a 4 to 5 week program, you can make well up to about $5,500 US. It's a decent amount of money to make in basically a month while the students are there. Obviously, you're doing a lot of work through between now and May, but how much time would you say, John, do you spend monthly preparing for this?
Well, because I've done this so many years, but again, I'd be willing to share any things that I do have, and I have with teachers that have been involved in this. I would say on average, maybe starting January, 5-6 hours a month is probably what I put in. Once the dossier or the applications start coming in, because I do take the time to go to the family's home. It usually takes a couple hours in the evening for each one of the 10, 12 kids that I have. But just organizing activities and events is probably, I would say, 5 to 7 hours a month, probably from January through June. Okay. And then meeting time with the host families and things. So probably 50 hours, 60 hours between January and June.
Okay. And then, so yeah, we want to pay you for that. So with that kind of work and you get paid that much money for then the 4 weeks that they're there, it's a pretty decent amount. Obviously, if you want to only find families, you can make well up to $600 to $1,000 for just finding the host families, depending on how many students come to your community. Another question that has come in is, when do I need to find all of my host families by? Our dream situation is May 1st. We would love to be able to have all the host families found in a community by May. That gives us a good month to basically organize all the activities and make sure everything's going together well. It's really also just a comfort thing for the international families. So imagine this international family that's getting ready to send their student to the United States, you know, and 1 week before they travel, they find out about hosting. It'd be a bit stressful. Mm-hmm. And so they want to know in a good amount of time where their child's going to be staying. And it also gives that month for them to exchange, to create the emails and the Skype and WhatsApp and Facebook, that it gives them a good month to get to know each other before the student actually travels to the United States. So we like to say May 1st because the students typically start coming at the end of June. But if we don't. If it doesn't happen in May and it goes into June, that's fine. We work with you and make sure that we can support and get those families found. But May is typically when it is.
And realistically, yeah, there's often, and again, this is my community. I don't know how everybody's community is, but oftentimes families aren't really ready to make a commitment till the beginning of May, just simply because they don't know what their plans are going to be for the summer, and this is 5 weeks or 4 weeks taking a student. Mm-hmm. And so it really just depends on, I think, the community oftentimes. Yeah. But I know that for me, it usually goes towards the end of May before I get everybody placed, but it happens.
Yeah. Just looking at time, we're a little over. I see there's 2 more questions, and I'm going to go with those, and then we'll end tonight. The one question here is, can I partner with another teacher in my school? The answer is yes. You can definitely partner with another teacher. You can split the family fee compensation, but that's totally fine. And we have some teachers, we have actually a group of teachers in outside of St. Louis, Missouri, in Jefferson City. There's 2 teachers that team up, 2 Spanish teachers, and they do the whole program together. And then the 2 of them travel to Chicago with their program, and it's just great to have 2 chaperones. So definitely okay to work with 2 teachers. We would like to be in contact with both of them if that's the case. And then the last question here is, when do I need to tell you if I want to do this by? Great question. We need to know by November, early November, mid-November, if this is something that you would like to commit to. As I told you, the recruitment season in Europe starts October, so now, and into November, and then through the rest of the spring. And so we would like to be able to tell our international partners confidently, this is where we have host families, this is where we have a family stay coordinator, and this is where they're going to want to stay, where they're going to want to host. So November is when we would like to know, so get a hold of us as soon as you have just questions. If you just want to ask more questions and find out more about how the program works, I would much rather have you call me, we talk about it, and you tell me, oh, sorry, I don't think this is going to work, rather than just totally not taking a chance on it. Because John's been doing this for 25 years, and he took a chance on it, and he's been doing it ever since. And clearly it's been a great benefit to him and his community and his classroom. And we just really want to give communities in your classroom and you a chance. And as long as we can have a dialogue around the experience, I would be happy. And because I think a lot of times people don't really understand. I mean, we've done this whole session now for 30 minutes, but I think some people just need to get the idea of it's really pretty easy and it's really got some great benefits.
Definitely.
So, John, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Well, again, you know, the benefits to me, obviously the financial benefits that, but to me now that's kind of secondary. I'm to a point in my life now where the money is nice, yeah, but realistically, my kids want to travel. My kids want to be part of this. And what I see them is now they have this global view rather than a small town view of the world. And I guess to me, that's always been my goal, whether I realized it or not. It's always been something that was really been important to me. And this program's made that possible. So I definitely would encourage you, at least call and ask some questions. If you're not sure if you want to do this or not, talk to Hans. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to chat with you at any time if you have any specific questions about the program. Has it all been a bed of roses this entire time? Absolutely not. But it's certainly, when you look at the big picture over the 25 years I've done this, the benefits far outweigh anything negative that may have come up. And like I said earlier, you guys have been very supportive. I've gotten great support from the people I work with. I definitely would encourage you to look into this.
Cool. Thank you so much, John, for your time. Thank you all very, very much for your time. If you want to get a hold of me, attached to this video, for those of you that are getting this video later after the webinar, all of my contact information will be made available in that email. Otherwise, thank you guys very, very much, and have a wonderful evening or day or whenever you get to view this video. But for those that are with us tonight, thank you very much. We'll see you later.